Dr. Christina Conolly, and welcome again to our MCPS video series, Waymaking. Our goal is to help families make their way through many of the emotional challenges that we are faced with today. I have with me today Mr. Jeff Becker, who is a licensed counselor or therapist with the MCPS Employee Assistance Program, or what we call EAP. He is here to discuss a big topic that is on most people's minds during the pandemic: sleep. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Christina.
Absolutely. So let's get started. So my first question is, people around the world are sharing that are either having trouble sleeping or sleeping too much during the pandemic. What are some of the signs that they are having difficulty with their sleep patterns?
Yeah, so let me start off by saying, adding a few things ahead of that. So I don't know if you got to see the post in the local living section. There was an article about Wuhan, China, and in it was a research piece. They looked at 2,600 residents there to see how they're doing. And what they found out in speaking to them is insomnia is way on the rise with that group. And the reason they're having insomnia is all the reasons you might think, that they're having an increase in anxiety, in depression. They're worried about catching the virus. They're worried about financial issues. So it's the same thing we would worry about here in Montgomery County. Same stuff. So I wanted to start off by saying that and just say a few brief things just about sleep, okay, and the importance of sleep. We spend 1/3 of our lives sleeping. So sleeping and working are the two main things that we do. And sleep is super important because a lot of healing and repair takes place at night, okay? Our brains get rid of toxins, our bodies are getting fixed up, and there's a cost to not sleeping. And some of the costs are higher risks for diabetes, type 2 diabetes, obesity, depression, and high blood pressure, for instance. A problem in this country is that prior to the pandemic, there were already a large number of people with sleeping disorders. So according to the American Sleep Association, 50 to 70 million people already have a sleeping disorder. Another 20 million have intermittent sleeping disorders. So now we have this thing laid on top of what we already had, okay? So with that in mind, let's talk about what are the signs of difficulty sleeping and problem sleeping. So if you think about sleep, there's different layers of problems. So there's problems during sleep, and then there's problems when you're awake, okay? So if you think about going to bed, so you lie down, so the first level of problem is problems falling asleep. So if it takes you more than 30 minutes, most of the time, that's considered a problem, okay? Then let's say once you're asleep, everyone wakes up a little bit, you know? But if you find that all of a sudden you're waking up and you're up for hours, okay? So that's a problem if you're up for hours. I think what's going on is people are getting all stirred up because there's so much going on. People are anxious about so much stuff, you know. School is kind of off than usual. All routines are off. People don't know what's happening this summer. Camps are not open, you know. No one knows how to go on vacation. You know, some people have financial problems now. So everything is off right now. And then at the tail end of sleep, you might be waking up too early. And again, your mind is all stirred up, so you can't go back to sleep. So those are where the sleep's part of it. And then you wake up, and that's what your sleep was like. So now your day starts, and you may find, these are common things everyone would kind of be aware of. Everyone's a little different. You could be more irritable, you could be more anxious, you could start actually becoming depressed or getting an anxiety disorder. You could be sleepy even though you're lying in bed for 7, 8 hours because the quality of your sleep is no longer good. You also could have difficulty concentrating at work, and you also may find that you need caffeine and other kind of things to get through the day. So those are a lot of signs of a general sleep kind of disorder. More specifically, if you are having loud snoring or gasping noises at night, that could be an indication of sleep apnea, which is another frequent sleep disorder. If you're having an irresistible urge to move your legs, that's restless leg syndrome, and that's another sign. But most of what we're talking about, when people say they can't sleep, they're usually talking about insomnia, I think. So those are some signs of difficult sleeping. Those aren't all the signs, but that's a good range of them.
All right,
Okay?
thank you.
Sure.
And I think it definitely helps to clarify, some of the unique issues that happen within sleep. It's not all just one type of sleep
Yeah.
issue, but there are multiple things that can occur for individuals to help them to be aware of that. And so then my next question is, so if people are listening to this and thinking like, well, that sounds like me. So
Uh-huh.
then what are some strategies that people can follow to get help so they can sleep better?
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody tries their best. So to sleep better, this category is called sleep hygiene. That's what you call it, sleep hygiene. It's a funny phrase. And if you think of sleep hygiene, you can divide this up too in categories of what do you do during the day, what do you do right before bed, and what do you do when you hit the pillow? Okay, so those are the things you are trying to get things done so you can sleep better. So let's go start with during the day. So during the day, things that help are exercise, trying to get exposure to daylight. So going out and taking those walks, which is like the only thing anyone can seem to do right now, even though the sun's not out, it'll be out someday, it's been very cloudy recently. So getting out and taking walks, avoiding daytime napping. So this is a tricky issue, okay? Because we have a natural, what's called the circadian rhythm. That's our internal 24-hour clock going on. And it has a natural dip in the middle from 1 to 3 p.m. So many people feel like, oh man, I could take a nap. Like it's 1:30, time to snooze. Now, if you're at work, you can't usually do that. But it's okay to do that. Okay, so that's an okay thing to do in terms of helping you. What you should avoid doing, which is naps at 10 a.m., naps around dinner time. These things mess up your sleep. So you really don't want to do that if you want to have good sleep. You also want to generally have practice of relaxation and stress management stuff going on in your life. I think you want to keep your baseline kind of level and not so it's elevating all day long because you're worried about everything, which you could if you let your mind run with it. There's a lot to be nervous about right now. But you want to bring the baseline down so by the time you get to evening, you're not in a frenzy of lying there wondering how you're going to get through tomorrow, So those are some of the daytime things. In terms of pre-bed stuff, what you want to do is, the goal is to calm the mind down, okay? So you certainly don't want late day caffeine or nicotine. It doesn't help. You actually want to avoid drinking alcohol. So this is a funny one because many people feel like, well, if I have a drink, I'm going to be calm and it'll help me go to sleep, right? That's usual stuff, but it sort of works backwards because the alcohol interferes with REM sleep, which is when you recover. And alcohol drinks metabolize at 1 drink per hour. So when it's done metabolizing, it can wake you up, so you have to watch taking in alcohol at that time. You want to do things that relax you before bedtime. That's a wide range. Some people like to read. Reading's a little tricky now because many people read on devices. You're on your Kindle, you're on your iPad. But I don't know that interferes with everybody if that's what you're reading, because there's advice to not expose yourself to light before bed, But, if reading the Kindle works for you, it's not a problem. Some people do a little meditation thing, a little prayer thing before bed, try to get centered and get the brain calm and not be sitting there fretting about everything that's going to make you nervous. You also want to restrict nighttime liquids so you don't have to get up too much at night and go to the bathroom, things like that. So that's just a practical kind of thing to do. And then once you hit the bed, there's a couple of things to be mindful of. I think what's happened in the world right now is our routines are off, So what you really want to have is make sure you have a routine once again. So this is our pandemic routine of, have a regular time that you go to bed and wake up, and we're talking 7 days a week. Especially if you're having sleeping problems, there's not much to do on the weekend now anyway. So it's a little easier to keep the Monday through Friday schedule going all week. So that would be a good thing to do. Then some core things to do have to do with how the bedroom is. So you want the bedroom to be quiet, cool, and dark. So by cool, usually 60 to 67 degrees works for most people, because to go to sleep, the body has to cool down. If you're having trouble cooling down, you have trouble sleeping. All right. Now, in addition to those things, there are things you could take over the counter and herbal remedies that are available that you could try to take. Some things like valerian root, chamomile, lavender, melatonin,
Hmm.
the usual Tylenol, PN. The only thing I would say about that stuff is read the labels carefully. And if you're taking medicine, please check with your doctor to make sure there's not going to be some kind of funny interaction with that. And the final piece is to actually call your doctor. If nothing is working, if you're not sleeping for a couple of weeks, you're going to feel terrible. So it's, at this point, it'll be a telehealth consult for that kind of thing. You could do it from home. You should call your doctor and at least run the symptoms by and see what the doctor says. And those
Okay.
are the main things to do.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate,
Sure,
all the suggestions
sure.
that you've provided. I know for me, I was listening like, okay, yeah, I could do that. Oh, yeah. And, I noticed that because I try to get off my phone before I go to bed because the glare and stuff, even if
Yeah.
it's like playing like a game or something, like, no, or trying to get my daughter and I back to our normal sleep routine because we're, up and, school is at home. It's like, oh, well, all of a sudden looking like it's midnight. Wait, no, and it's throwing us off. Like I got to get back, like, okay, we got to go back upstairs and start going to bed at 9 o'clock, not at midnight.
Yeah.
So let's, because it's impacting things. So what can we do to try to get back on our normal schedule? Because like you said, our circadian rhythms are off
Yeah.
because we're working from home and we don't have our normal schedule. Like you get up at 6, you get yourself dressed. Now it's like,
No. What's
okay,
the new normal schedule, right?
right. So, and trying to figure out what that is
Mm-hmm.
for all of us.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
thank you. And
Sure.
so, then my last question is: so, what are some community resources that are available to people who need help with their sleep?
Yeah. So I'm going to actually look at something here. I have a little list in front of me to address this. So one thing is, what are good sources for information to start with? So some of these things are online, but the good resources are National Institute of Health, National Sleep Foundation, American Sleep Apnea Association, American Sleep Association. Um, the MCPS Wellness Program, which Lisa Cooperstein, the Wellness Coordinator, has, that's public information. And she has a nice video collection with a lot of recent information on sleep. So that's a really good resource. There are apps and podcasts to listen to for calming down kind of stuff. Apps like Buddhify, Headspace, Calm, Mindshift. Podcasts like Meditation Break, 3-Minute Hypnosis, My Meditation Station, etc. Again, if things aren't working for you, then you contact your primary care physician or whatever doctor you're going to. Maybe talk to them about a sleep study, that kind of thing. And if it's being driven by anxiety or depression, you can also maybe speak to a mental health provider, whether it's a psychiatrist, psychologist, clinical social worker, stuff like that. Or if you happen to, if you work for MCPS, you could call the EAP. If you don't work for MCPS, you may also have an EAP. If you work for Montgomery County government or Montgomery College, they all have EAPs if you work for a large company. So that could be a good starting point for anybody. So those are the main resources, I would say.
Okay, thank
Okay?
you. So at least that'll get people started,
Yeah, yeah,
trying
sure,
to
yeah.
on their pathway of trying to get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, who doesn't want a good night's sleep? That's right.
Right, we all want a good night's
That's
sleep.
right. Yeah.
All right. So Jeff, I want to thank you for spending time with us today, and we always want to thank our viewers for joining us for Waymaking. To send us additional questions and topics to discuss on the show, please visit the link on your screen. Also, please visit our Waymaking playlist on YouTube for additional videos that we have within our library. And please join us next time on MCPS Waymaking.